I want to talk about the future kinds of wars that might happen. Or another way of putting it is, well, World War III hasn't started yet. The first shots haven't been fired. Uh, Millions of civilians haven't been killed. So there is time to speculate and try to stop it or minimize it or dissuade the participants to do something else. One of the things that the public misses, especially Americans, is that the kind of war they imagine that there will be, say, the Americans think, the World War III would be something like, a quicker version of World War II, or that, we are such an imperial might, and, people will get intimidated. We send a few aircraft carriers. This is exactly what happened when they had the crisis with North Korea. They sent all these old ships over there and la la la. But that's not the kind of war that's gonna happen. The only statement that I heard, I think it was General Mattis, that said that the kind of war that we're gonna end up in with North Korea would be deadly, very quick, and millions of people would get killed. Like such statements coming from like their own defense chief, it doesn't even register with the public. Americans, like. When you look at some of the movies that, especially where the British made World War II and the Americans, you sometimes come across these conversations. They call the Americans, them provincial Yankees. Like it's kind of a code word for somebody who's very dumb and will engage in anything without looking at any of the consequences that might be happening. Actually, I was reading this book. It's called 1 Second Later. Okay, this is a very realistic scenario, and I think this is what will initially will happen to mainland United States, that one of these belligerent states that the United States has been going after, like North Korea or Iran or Russia or China, they have nukes that are flying up. They make crisscrosses on the mainland U.S. One of these nukes will go off in space, and then on the bottom here, where yours truly's body is located, then there won't be any cars that will be running. There won't be any electronics. The financial system, the servers that we all use, they totally shut down. Wall Street will shut down, and the banks will be automatic martial law, and then you'll see the military vehicles coming through into towns, and there will be distribution centers for food, and also I don't know what will happen to the regular police, because then the penalties for looting, even public appearance or congregating in public, will be very severe. Maybe like a national guard will be everywhere, and this is just would be the beginning salvos. This is not even what will follow shortly afterwards. But my hope would be that the country that initiated this, say for example the Chinese exploded the nukes in space and disabled all of all of East Coast of United States, and that's like my pipe dream that hey, where I'm located, there won't be as much damage. But say a very benign or case that say they did this and almost all of East Coast went dark, and then I think that, or I hope that the foreign military that initiated this will come around, or will have some kind of discussion, or so. This is very hopeful scenario that they will say to the Americans, hey, you're dead meat. Our nukes can reach you now, and we're gonna hit you a lot harder. You want to pause for a few minutes, a little time out, and we can negotiate the terms of belligerence and see maybe we can do things differently, because the mainland United States is valuable as a commercial as a consumer market to these foreigners, to Koreans or to Japanese or to the Chinese. I don't think as much for the Russians, but then also like Middle Eastern or Arabs, they have a lot more cultural ties and more people over here, so there might be some type of interest that hey, we don't want to kill all of them. Maybe some fraction should be saved. We have to sell our oil or our electronics, or I have my cousin there, so on. So this is like an initial hope, but that's a really wishful thinking, because often when the hostilities start, when the wars start, is like a tit for tat, and the fact that much of the public have this outdated view of the kind of weapons that will be used, the consequences. I just described to you one very benign consequence, but I think the next step in the foreign attack or incursion would be that the foreigners, the Chinese, the North Koreans, or the Iranians would target American politicians where their butt is located, like Washington D.C. I'm almost sure this will be a hit, and they would want to kill off these politicians that have started so many wars. And other targets, I'm speculating, will be New York and San Francisco, because in New York is where all these Jewish financial institutions are located, or the Wall Street is there. Is once it gets knocked out, well, I think even in the very first second it will get knocked out, because all the electronics will be burned. But then, depending on how much animosity these foreigners would have, they might want to kill off the population, or a portion of it that has been sword in their back. And that's one. I think that because there is so much depth that the U.S. has published, that maybe the foreigners would still want some hope of being able to collect this debt, even after negotiated settlements, like when there has been a lot of damage. Then the enemy could sit down on the table and they could get their monies back, or some of it. I don't know. I think San Francisco, I'm kind of debating if it will get targeted, if it's limited engagement, because well, there's a lot of companies, there's a lot of high-tech companies. Uh, some foreign adversaries might be interested in knocking them out, so to prevent the United States from rebuilding their infrastructure or their financial system or electronic systems or servers. That's something to look at. If the shit really hits the fan, I think that there will be a very large civilian casualties in Israel, and their main two cities like Haifa and Tel Aviv might get completely overrun or nuked even. I don't know. They have been asking for war for so many years. I mean, I hardly can go to Google News or even YouTube. Just put in the code word Israel and pops out that like almost every week they send in their planes. They bomb some other place, like they bombed the last month. I saw that they had just for no provocations, no particular reasons, they had bombed one of the Syrian cities, and like 43 people had gotten killed. It's like in previous wars, if somebody did that, if a country did that, that would be a major provocation. But Israel does that so frequently, so often, that it's like a commonplace. Oh well, we just bombed the fuck out of these people, and maybe we destroy entire section of a town. We are the Israelis. We are the ultimate. But also over there, this perception of superiority and technological prowess that permeates the Israeli society or thinking, military thinking, is so false and so outdated. Well, just looking at just Syria and Hamas, which are just next door, and they're both small. Hamas is very small; it's just like a town. There are reasons to believe that even these two states will do significant damage to Israel. Let's not even worry about the Iranians and the Russians. If they come in, it will just be totally over. But Syria managed to decimate foreign, well-financed, well-armed incursions in many of its cities. A lot of cities were occupied by ISIS, and they were these belligerent terrorists. They owned and operated the towns, but things didn't stay the same. There is a determination in these people, in the Syrians, that they're gonna, if the fight starts, it's not like Israel is going against like Egypt, where they were unable militarily to defend themselves or fight back. That's not true with Syrians. I was watching all the conflicts, and I saw that the Syrians had all these old MiGs from Russia, but then I don't know if the Russians had done that or they had gotten the technology uh, from Iran, and they had modified the MiG, big fucking MiG with all these weapons and cargo bay, and the MiG was flying off their Air Force bases, doing bombing runs, and then coming back and landing like a drone. This is like, and also they had perfected the bombing technology, like it was just like barrel bombs, and they could destroy entire divisions of ISIS. Or usually the ISIS, they have these safe houses, and they would target them with the satellite from the Russian side, and then go with these MiGs that were modified, and then do their work. Then this is old stuff. This is not even what is available. Another thing I saw, I'm very sure many Americans, they never go to these sites, and they never look at these technologies that are already very old here now. I saw that in the Obama era, which is itself like 10 years ago, that's the history. The Iranian government had captured one of the most advanced stealth drone, and then I was watching at Press TV that they had remanufactured these drones. They showed one base. There was all these drones. Well, in just that one video, I saw like 20 RQ. I think it's RQ-170. That's like real advanced drone for its time, and they're building all these drones. And then the military reporter came in and said, "Well, this is just one of our bases. This is not we have bases everywhere in Iran with these drones." And well, another thing, another report I saw, that they were showing these underground bases. Okay, and the military reporter was saying that these bases were made like 25 years ago. Okay, this is how old a lot of very deadly technology is like. I understand what Mr. Mattis was saying, that if there is a new war, it will be very deadly, and it will be very quick. It will not like it might last like for a day or so. And while I was listening to Salente, Salente was saying that if they start war with Iran, it will be like a start of World War III. It would be like death on the planet Earth. There would be a lot of drone strikes, and like all these drones. And the thing about the drones and the technology which Iran and even Syria has it, other countries, is that there is no casualty for operator. They usually, just like the Americans, they sit in bases that are far out of reach of anything, and then they operate these devices. They go in and do all this damage, and then they come back in one piece, no problem. Then that's not the perception that many people have of how the war will be conducted. They think, hey, we'll be sending some tanks, and there will be like B-52 bombers will go there, and that's not true. Would the B-52 bombers reach there? The other thing is, like even like internet technology. If I told you about an app or a technology that existed or exists, and it was started in like 3 years ago, like people who know internet say, oh my God, that's like prehistoric times, 3 years of development in this technology. Imagine what we have now. But imagine countries that have many very good engineers, very smart, like Russia or Iran or China or even North Korea. They be fearful of a foreign adversary like United States or Israel, and spending all this money and human resources. This went on for many years. What do you think technologically is there and available, when shit hits the fan? Do you think it will be like World War II? Or it would be outrageous. It would be things that you never thought that would be possible. Then other technologies that will come into play is that I saw this when in the news when the Wahhabi terrorists attacked the IRGC soldiers that I think it was in Ahvaz or Abadan, and they killed a bunch of them. And then the Iranian government said that, hey, we're gonna investigate and we're gonna kill off these people no matter where they are. So but Iran has satellites, and they had discovered by interrogating some of the terrorists who these people were, and they were connected to ISIS, and they had some houses or locations in Syria. Then they had coordinated with the Syrian government that, hey, we're gonna do this. And then they had stealth hypersonic rockets that are almost impossible to hit with any anti-aircraft, and they targeted using satellite technology these houses, these base that they had, and they sent in, I think it was 6 rockets that they sent in, they completely obliterated the ISIS base. But what I'm saying is that it will be quick, it will be very much targeted, very accurate, like it will not be like a World War II, like the Germans coming to Berlin and indiscriminately bomb everything and everybody. No, it will be very targeted, and the foreign, like Israeli military base itself, with the soldiers, not civilians, no buildings that could be used later on as a commercial. No, it will be just real exact, and the real culprit, and they will get knocked out. I saw another episode or another incident. I think there was a general, or is the general Iranian. He was called Soleimani, and he was based in near Golan Heights, and they targeted. I don't know how exactly they knew where the Israeli soldiers and base was in Golan, and they sent in 20 of these high precision rockets, and they did a lot of damage. It would be like that. It would be very quick, very targeted, and the weapons will be very advanced. Nothing like what the public thinks it should be and it could be. But initial salvos, I think, like nukes in space or EMP, I think there will be casualties, but these casualties will be as a consequence to what happened. I don't know. My hope is that the civilians will not get as much killed, and mostly the military personnel will get knocked out. But that's just very hopeful thinking, and these hostilities have been going on for a very long time. So things could be a lot different than what I imagined, and it could be a lot more deadly and quick. Anyhow, well, there's still time. Things haven't started, so there's a lot that people can do. I thought that President Trump could call himself the smartest president if he doesn't get impeached or killed, because he went, he made peace, or he made peaceful gestures, you know, brought down the temperature and got the American personnel out. You know, these are very positive. Not to hang on to stupid foreign bases or territories that a lot of Americans will get killed. I mean, I feel the stuff I'm saying right now is just totally goes against the grain of me as a person, the way I grow up to be. I'm Iranian, you know, my sympathies never go towards Americans. But I've lived here so long, and I have family, and then sometimes I just go in and think, hey, you know, we could do things, we as in legal construct, we, because I'm here and I'm using a legal device that calls me an American national, we as in that sense, we could do things differently, we would not get so killed off. You get my point? And thank you for being my YouTube channel, and I think Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers. Even if there is little hope, whoever makes even small gestures and steps, he might be coming up on top. Thank you very much. Please subscribe and leave a comment.